once again, this is a marketing strategy session, and we're going to talk about some interesting topics such as PR in a way that you may not be doing it, but hopefully after this you will be. I have Josh on the call with me today, and he is from upinpr.com as well as savingsangel.com, but he has been doing PR for some major brands in ways that may amaze you, hopefully doesn't amaze you, but definitely gets you inspired to do it in a different way. Josh, thanks for coming on the show today.
My pleasure, Jeff.
Now, Josh, we were talking earlier about a little bit of how PR has changed over the years and how now it's more robust with social media and so forth. What is your take as far as PR and major brands and how they can leverage the new resources available?
Yeah, so I think if we look particularly over the past 10 years and what has evolved, I think that social media has made this concept of PR the great equalizer. So back when I first started my own businesses, really all we had, if you were a small, scrappy startup, was guerrilla marketing. And guerrilla marketing would just be going out and trying to create news and do it in creative ways. And that's a great way that you could get your foot in the door and get a lot of exposure. Now with social media, you've got a couple of great things that have now opened up. Number one, anybody can become a news source. Obviously, with a website and you build a fan base, you can be a source of information and entertainment, not just marketing lingo. So that's opened up. And then, of course, social media as a whole has really made the accessibility to about any influencer you like extremely easy. So a lot of, I think a lot of work that most practitioners in the field of public relations do is a lot of connecting of the dots. This is an influencer over here. This is a great media opportunity here. I've got a brand that I represent. I want to make sure that my brand is represented very well in front of this large audience. And the messaging is consistent and we get all of our talking points, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I think if we look at what's available today, some practitioners in public relations may not like this, but I think that, social media has really equalized the playing field and has reduced the expenses of what normally would have cost you $1,000 or $2 every single month, just if you have someone on your staff that can use Twitter comfortably, because Twitter is the ultimate platform for connecting, with any influencer very, very easily. And again, before you had to pay a lot of money for very expensive databases. I mean, as a PR house ourselves, we still buy those databases, and I'm not saying that they're without a place. They certainly are. But I honestly feel that if you as a business professional want to make a connection with someone who you'd really like to build a relationship with, it's much easier today than it's ever been before, and you don't have to pay a lot of money in order to do that.
That's correct, and it's funny that you say that. I was watching the Olympics, watching the volleyball actually, and they said Leslie Jones, they actually called her in, flew her out to Rio, so she could be one of the commentators because of her social media. She was on Twitter. She was putting out so much content that was getting such a big response that she actually secured a position and had them fly her out when she isn't even a journalist. She wasn't even trying to. She was just stating her opinion. It got such a big response that she then became one of those influencers. So, the old traditional way of we need to just look at these publications and so forth, those days are fleeting. And nowadays, there's other influencers out there. And like you said before, Twitter has definitely made the playing field equal, because now you can get in front of them just by getting on their Twitter account, reaching out to them. If they like what you have to say, you can go from there. So it's not the old traditional, I have to pitch them, and then we have to do this follow-up. Yeah, some of that's still there, but it's a little easier than it was before.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say especially for independent newsmakers. So, for example, let's say I start a new company and I've got a brilliant solution and I absolutely love my larger industry. So, if I can just use social media intelligently, then I can become a reliable source for those in the media. And so, that's, again, I've had a lot of success in doing this myself. Savings Angel, we've done over $5 million in sales, and I've spent less than $500 in advertising. All I do is PR. And, as a result, I've been in the media now more than 1,500 times, both as a syndicated columnist, as a syndicated TV consumer expert. Every single month, twice a month, I'm in 75 TV markets. So it's a skill that I've gotten good at over the years, but when I started, I wasn't very good, but that's okay because any skill can be learned. And, for those who are financially involved in the success of their company, whether it's a large enterprise or, they're a scrappy startup, if you will really take the step forward to be much more, out there in terms of your brand and seek after audiences that you can serve, I promise you that the rewards are enormous and more enormous now than they've ever been.
Okay. So you've become an authority in that source. So the question that I have, does the way you put out your press release, and I say press release with the quotes. Let's put the quotes around press release. Is it different? Because, before it used to be formatted a certain way for immediate release, and you have this whole, now, how is it different?
Sure. Okay. So if you are a large company, a very, very large company, like let's say Coca-Cola, when Coca-Cola or Home Depot puts out a press release, chances are it's newsworthy. If you are a small company, if you're, Jake's Auto Body Shop and you put out a press release, or you have a membership-based website and that's your thing, and you put out a press release, guess what? Nobody cares. So in terms of press releases, it's really relative to your authority in the space. And for the vast majority of businesses, nobody cares about your stupid business. They really don't. So you have to create instead content and news that audiences are already talking about and use what's called, a term called newsjacking. So rather than just trying to create news, like we just launched version 1.2 of our product, that's not going to get on the evening news. However, if, some politician or some celebrity is involved in the news for something and you're like, wow, this is actually something that we as a company have some authority on. Like if they're seen, wearing, I don't know, all of a sudden umbrellas, are all the rage and everyone carries them whether it's raining or not. And you make umbrellas, you can talk about the trend, not just in terms of, your company, but you can talk about, the history and trends and, you can be a part of that story. So that's not a really good example, but the general idea is that you want to pay attention to what's trending and you want to be the eyes and the ears for your influencer friends, not just in the media. Anybody. You could work with YouTube celebrities, Instagram celebrities, whoever has content requirements and content needs and has an audience that is expecting to be informed, entertained, and enlightened. You can be, kind of on their justice team, their Justice League of America. You can be the one guy or gal that happens to know a lot about mixed nuts or snack food or whatever. Just look at your industry. And a lot of times you may be doing something very specific and you need to look at the broader industry that you're a part of. So that's kind of what you want to pay attention to. And when you see something happening and you can contribute to the conversation in a way that's unique, it might be a little bit controversial, but generally you want to evoke a reaction from a reporter that goes, oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That makes a really good pitch. So again, just in terms of press releases, I don't do a lot of them. I think that it's fine to create the content, but I would much rather see an organization invest in creating better original content on their blog or through social media, and then use that to share with all of their influencer friends. A lot of times, maybe a larger, more formal news organization may request a press release. And again, writing the content's fine, but paying to distribute it, I just don't see it working very well anymore. And it's really gotten worse and worse, especially over the past 5 to 8 years. It's not worth your money.
Okay. So you're saying really just joining the conversation. So if they're talking about, let's say somebody says, I don't know, let's use the health industry. Somebody says something about you can lose weight by eating mixed nuts. And you're an expert in fitness. You can contribute to that and state, well, eating mixed nuts is fine, but if you have a peanut allergy, these are some of the things to think about.
Yeah.
And without exercise, it doesn't really matter. Here's some things you could do while you're eating your mixed nut to exercise on the couch.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So, an example would be looking for studies that are released. If a university does a study, if somebody else sponsors a study, obviously someone from that organization is probably not going to show up at your local TV station, but you can show up at your local TV station and you can be the one to essentially report on this new information. And of course, you want to add your take on it. And again, be very, very careful. And I suspect that there are a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are very much on the marketing side of things. Marketing and PR are two very different things. Essentially, they may have the same goals in, attracting a lot of attention, hopefully driving a lot of sales ultimately. But when you are involved in working with influencers and you want to deliver content to their audience, you have to be very, very, very careful not to sell. Otherwise, you will not get invited back. Now, look, you can do it and you might be able to get away with it once. But, my philosophy when it comes to, PR and exposure and working with the media is play the long game. I've been quoted in the Chicago Tribune probably a good dozen or so times. And it's because each time I do, I'm 100% focused on serving their audience and not selling Savings Angel, my primary company. Right. And so, locally here in Orlando, I've gone in every single Tuesday morning for the past 6 years, and I don't sell Savings Angel. If I mention my company, it's in passing. And of course, at the end of the segment, the reporter will say, well, where can people go to find out more about these deals that you just shared? And I say, I've got a free coupon database you can grab right now at Savings Angel. Grab these coupons and go get these deals. It had nothing to do with my paid products and services. It's always about what you can have for free, giveaway. I'm really, really big on takeaway media and takeaway TV.
Okay. So you're not pitching. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's you're not coming in saying, hey, this is the topic and this is how we can help you with this particular problem. It's more of this is the insight that I have on this particular topic and our point of view. And then if they like your point of view, then indirectly they can then find you and do business with you. You
better believe. And you'll get invited back. And what you're doing is you're investing in that relationship with that influencer. And so if you invest in your relationships with influencers and journalists, they can absolutely wave their magic wand and send lots of business your way. But please be very, very, when it comes to selling, go really soft. And, and this is really important in all of your communication as well when you're working with the media. When you initially reach out, when you initially connect, when you're talking about the segment or you're talking about the article, you really, really, really want to keep it light on what's in it for you. It should always be about what's in it for them and serving their audience and putting that audience absolutely first. don't worry, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for you to get recognition. But again, what I find is that producers are extremely sensitive to entrepreneurs or authors or speakers or whatever that just want to get in and just, they become a me monster once you put them in camera. I've been in green rooms where, they'll have a guest expert, and the guest expert will start ringing that cash register bell on air, and the producer will be like, well, that's the last time they'll ever be on. I'm like, wow, you're really serious about that? They're like, yep. We're not we don't do infomercials. People don't watch TV for infomercials. They watch TV to be educated and enlightened and entertained. And so that's what we have to do as a news organization. So, you're a great guest. You don't, even though I don't represent them, but I talk about deals you can get at Walgreens, CVS, and Publix, and all these other chains. I'm across the board. My job is just to serve the viewer, and because of that, it's a great fit.
Okay. Now, with a bigger organization, and I know this is going to be hard for them to grasp because you're talking bottom line, you're talking sales, and usually when they're measuring, that's the key measurement or the KPI that they look for. Should they have a representative? And what I mean by a representative is somebody that may be entertaining, very educational and so forth, to be their face, their speaker that knows how to bring that without the sales pitch. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to send somebody from the sales team or the marketing team. Yeah. And that person, like you say, is just focused on the bottom line, the goal, because they're going to sit in the meetings afterwards and say, this is what we did, this is the outcome, here's our projections and so forth. But that person that, like you say, those YouTube stars that has the I guess what the audience is looking for, they have that appeal. Yeah. Should a bigger organization look to find someone like that to be their representative?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you can either so it depends on the news organization. So obviously, if you're talking about going on CNBC or Fox Business or something like that, they don't want to talk to your spokesperson. They want, the CFO, or they want a C-level executive. So, however, if you're talking about, general media, or this is an opportunity where we are talking to consumers, then absolutely. Look, I've done workshops, with a room full of attorneys on how to be likable on TV. And it is absolutely a skill and an art. And it can mean the difference between, doing $5,000 in sales and $50,000 in sales as a result of that media appearance. It is that significant. We've all watched reality TV shows where, you may be watching someone with your spouse, and, my wife might go, oh man, I don't like that person. I'll be like, yeah, I don't like them either. What is it? It's like, I don't know. They just give off a weird vibe. And so they're absolutely, it's like NLP psychology, but it's really just, it's performance art, and it makes a huge difference. And it's why, if you hire a good spokesperson, sometimes it can be a little expensive. Like there are companies now that I do spokesperson work for, and, I'm not super cheap, but I deliver the goods. Because I also, in addition to, and most spokespeople that you hire, not only will they be good, unlike me right now, not only will they be good at delivery, but they'll also have credentials to lean on. So, for example, I've been a nationally recognized consumer expert for 10 years now. So as the savings angel, when I put my stamp of approval on something, there's that added value. So this is kind of influencer marketing. But yeah, I'm a fan of, making sure that you're putting your best people in front of the camera, because it's pretty hard to watch a segment with someone who's all fidgety and looking around and just not really connecting with either the host or the audience. It can be a big wasted opportunity.
Okay. Now, when you're looking at vetting them, I know a lot of times you're sitting in the meetings and they say, oh, well, how many followers do they have on Twitter? Or how many fans do they have on Facebook? Or things of that nature, and that determines if there's a person for the job. And in my take, that's not telling the whole story.
No, it's not. You're right. Yeah. So
yeah, what would you say on that?
So in general, when it comes to making the decision of who do we want to align with, and this goes for both the intended media outlet and say the expert, if you're going to hire a third party expert to help promote and pitch your work, or an influencer. You want to look for overlap. You want to, if you have it really dialed in of who your target audience is, you may have multiple target audiences. You might want to hire, you're going to be on an urban media outlet and you want to get an urban public, a pitch person because they're going to connect. And, let's say it's Coca-Cola, for example. They're like, we really want to do a lot more business among minorities. So obviously they're going to make a play for that, and they're going to make that higher. But in each case, what you need to look at is who the intended audience is. Maybe you're just a small outlet and you're like, look, I want people who have X number of income. They drive this kind of car, blah, 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 blah. They've got it really dialed in on exactly who their avatar is. And so then what they want to look at is they say, well, we want to go and market our product in front of media outlets that have the highest density or the highest number of those people. So, for some of my members, some of my clients that we work with, local TV is great. I do a lot of local TV because my target audience is, a mom in her late 20s, early 30s in the suburbs, makes okay money, but really loves getting a great deal. So, for me, my local Fox affiliate, it's a great fit. For others, if they've got a specialty product, local TV doesn't make a difference. It's not a good fit. They would be much better served by maybe finding a niche YouTuber or a niche podcaster and do great work with them because they've got 1,000 people, but those 1,000 people are all like their absolute targeted audience that they're looking for. So, and again, the same thing goes for the person that you hire to represent your product. They absolutely need to resonate with whoever that is that you're trying to attract. So for me, I'm very unique in the world of, teaching shopping, making shopping recommendations, because I'm a man who knows how to market very, very well to married women. And so I got 3 kids. I know how to talk about my kids. I know how to talk about my relationship with my wife. And so, again, if you want a spokesperson that can speak from authority, but yet convey a message in a way that women are going to resonate with, then, I'd be your guy. But for other things, if you just want a mommy blogger that can really talk, just kind of heart to heart, look, I feel your struggle, I feel your pain, then you don't want to hire me. You want to make sure that you hire that mommy blogger.
Yeah, and it's very good that you made that point, that the audience is the first thing to keep in mind, instead of, I guess you would say, the brand look that they feel the audience would like to see. And a lot of times that's the case. A lot of times they may look at it as, this is what I would look at. And one thing that I've told tons of clients, you are not your audience. You are not your customer. In most cases, you're not your customer. And you're so close to your product or service, you know so much about it, that you're going to pick somebody that you assume a lot of things. And so having the audience research already presented and looking at that makes all the difference. Yeah. And that's the hard work.
Yeah. So, with any influencer you're looking at, you basically just, show me the goods. Who are you already communicating with? Tell me about your audience. And if someone who's in authority and someone who has already built up a large audience, I mean, it generally takes some good skill to build a large audience. And, if they have that skill, that's worth something. And it's absolutely worth, pursuing an influencer marketing campaign. That would be one thing. Again, my specialty is, working with those influencers and or, really making sure that you're working with traditional media, because there's just a huge opportunity, both in digital and in traditional media, if you have a great message and you can be a part of the conversation.
Okay. Now, I do know that you offer a actual training for this. Tell us more about that training so somebody that's looking to perfect this skill can get some more education on it.
I've worked with a lot of small and medium-sized companies who have spent a lot of money hiring out PR. Most PR practitioners are very good at what they do. However, what I have found is it generally requires a very large investment in order to build a campaign of substance. So it's very, very easy. If you want to find a solution that, is maybe just a couple of $1,000s a month, it's hard to get traction. And it's very, very possible that you could invest tens of thousands of dollars and come out at net negative in terms of what kind of sales did we get out of that. So I wanted to create a solution because I needed it myself. I've blown over $25,000 hiring PR people, and I'll be honest with you, the results, not real great. But the work I did myself, because I believe that nobody can represent a product or service as well as the founder or the owner. Because we're emotionally invested in that. We have the story. And today's media, we see more and more and more where the media will specifically, if they're looking for an expert in something, they will specifically say, no PR people. We only want to talk to the expert. I don't have time to deal with PR people is basically what the media are saying. It's like, I need a quote. I need an expert. I need it immediately. And I don't want to have to jump through all these hoops and blah, 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 set up all these conference calls. I just need a quote, right? And so we see this more and more and more. So we created at upendpr.com a done with you level of service where we try to keep our costs under $1,000 a month, which really doesn't exist very well in the public relations world. So, we don't really work with the large corporate clients. That's not our niche. We work more with, startups who, they've got some level of funding and they're ready to attract a lot of attention and a lot of eyeballs and really build that buzz. Because when it comes to business, you may have the best idea in the world, but if you just aren't getting traffic to your website, you're not getting the eyeballs, you don't have enough data to experiment with to find out what's going to sell. You're not going to make the sales. And there have been brilliant business ideas that have been left on the table because they just couldn't get enough attention in the early days. And the reason Savings Angel went on to create this 7-figure a year company is simply because we got a lot of exposure in the early days. And it wasn't an overnight success, but I tell you, it was a lot cheaper than people that are plunking down 4 or 5 figures a month in Facebook advertising. Our profit margins are significantly higher because we just don't have that marketing expense. We can invest more in our solutions and in our people and in our technology and, pass along the savings to our customers. It's a great way of doing business. But Upend PR fills a niche that really historically has not existed. We want to empower organizations to be able to do this work in-house, get all of the rewards, and not have to, make these risky investments in a PR firm that may or may not deliver for them.
Okay, and once you start doing it correctly, it's sort of a snowball effect because other journalists will see you, publications see you, influencers will see you, and they'll want you on their show as well, or their platform.
That's how it works. And so, as much as, and I get clients who are like, hey, can you get me on the Today Show in 30 days? I'm like, nope, I cannot, but I can introduce you to a PR firm in New York City that will charge you 6 figures and they can do it. So, you can either pay your way to the top and you will pay dearly, or you can earn your way to the top. And earning your way to the top is really, really cool because you'll build up a lot of brand and industry authority along the way. Plus, you'll learn a skill and you'll develop relationships. You'll do all kinds of amazing networking that'll happen. you know what? You can really, really enjoy a fun ride. I mean, that's exactly what we did with our company. And, Upend PR, we're kind of doing the same thing where I don't do a lot of marketing. I do a lot of giving. And I give, I serve, I do a lot of pro bono stuff. And as a result, not everybody's going to buy from you, but the ones who are like, you know what? I really appreciated, how much you gave. I feel like I need to reciprocate. And if you can get audiences that want to reciprocate and like, geez, you gave me like so much good information. I feel like I should buy something from you or give you money or something. It's like, if you get to that point in relationship with your customers, man, you're doing this thing right.
Yes. And I noticed also you do give your 7 favorite low-cost tools to create a buzz. And I think that's really exciting to see.
Oh, yeah. Because there's expensive solutions out there. And then there's just using free things in a way like, again, I'm a big fan of Twitter. And if you do Twitter right, you can do away with thousands of dollars a month in what you would normally spend to a PR firm. But you just have to do it right. And if you'll do that, you can absolutely knock the ball out of the park, make connections like you've never believed, and you can get really, really influential people saying very nice things about your products and services.
Well, great. Josh, thanks so much for your insight. And I hope everyone learned as much as I did. Hopefully you're going to do the next step, which is take action. Start learning some things, taking some action, seeing how it works out for you and tweaking. Because it'll all work once you start tweaking enough and don't quit. So, Josh, thanks again. Everyone, if you have an opportunity, go over to upendpr.com. Look at the free resource. Find those 7 low-cost tools. At least do that. I mean, that's really nothing but a couple of seconds out of your day. And then if you find it useful, reach out to Josh and see how you can learn how to do this new way of PR, which actually isn't as new as you may think, but it is the way that PR is going today.
Yeah, it's just networking. So businesses, I'll just close with, businesses who enjoy networking and enjoy serving audiences, you are going to do very, very, very well at PR, because that's all it really is. If you have a heart of service, if you love to give to audiences and love to serve people, that's all it is. Like everything else is going to come very, very natural for you. But absolutely take advantage of all the free stuff that I do. You don't need to hire me. You can just, take my good advice, do it all yourself. And I'll be happy to take any royalty checks based on your success. But nonetheless, I'm at that stage of business now where it's all about leaving a legacy. So the more people I can help, the better.
And we thank you so much for that. And I'm sure that some very nice companies out there will be very gracious to you and reach out to you. So we really appreciate that. I know I've learned a lot. I'm definitely going to the site and downloading and looking at how to do this a little bit better than I've even done it. I haven't really dug into PR that much. So that is something that is definitely of interest. So thanks, Josh, for coming on. Thank everyone for watching. And once again, this has been another marketing strategy session, and we will bring these to you as frequently as we can. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff.